All right, welcome to this new episode on this amazing asset browser that we're building in Houdini using Python and PySide. All right, excited for this episode. A lot of new content's gonna happen in here. Pretty happy with what I have right now. Let me show you what I have at the moment. I'm gonna make Houdini a little bit bigger. As browser, here it is. So seems like not much is different at the moment. It's just loading the images still as it did before, but this time it's actually loading the images, it's caching the images to a database, and it's loading the images from the database, not calling the website all the time. Although we could maybe at some point just add a way to recache them, but we're still checking from the website at any time. So if I click indoor, you can see that loads really quickly. There is still a little bit of optimization we can do here, but we're going to do that later. For now, I think this is doing pretty cool. You can see we loaded the skies, and all this is loading from the database at the moment because I already cached everything to this. But yeah. This is really cool. I really had some fun doing this. And as I mentioned, there is some room for improvement later, and we will do that at a later point when we get to do more polishing on certain areas. But I wanted to do that because I wanted to keep assets locally, not always calling the website every single time and having all those calls to online. So now the images are cached here, and it just load as quickly as we can here. All right, as I mentioned, the code could still have some improvement, but it's really cool for now. So let's do what we always do, just switch back to the current version. So I am on the latest dev version at the moment, version 8, which is this video 8. Let's delete this and get back to the previous one, and then we'll get to this state while we work on this. So there we go. You can see this is still loading from the website, and even this section that is really small takes a while to load. So if we go, let's say, to indoor, it's not a really big section, but you can see they are just a few images loading. If we switch back to studio, you can see it takes some time, and still it's not. Then there you go, you can see it starts loading. So there's a little bit more lag when we call it from the website still, which also, if anyone knows how to make that faster, let me know, and we can do that. Apply that into the code here. Let me make a Python panel up here, Python shell here, so we can work in these two panels. We don't need much here in Houdini for now. All right, so what we're gonna use for the database is a local database. We're not gonna get into servers and stuff like that. We're just gonna use a local database, and we're going to use something that's called SQLite. SQLite is pretty cool for small projects like this, or local things that you want to have without a server. SQLite in a file system. I always like this from SQLite, since it's 25% faster than loading stuff from the file system. I haven't tested that is true, but that's how one of the features of the database, which is great. So what we're gonna do is store the assets on the database. This is the database browser here, DB browser for SQLite, and you can get this. I'll tell you where you can get this. But you can see I have cancel. I have the database here at the moment. You just have one table with a name, size, and an image. And you can see here's the assets, and has a name, a size, and an image. And you can see the image is stored here. So the image is actually stored in the database. And how big is this database right now? Let's see. Opening files, how big that is 72 megabytes. It's okay. I mean, that's all the assets from the website at 256. That's 507 assets. I think it's fine. I mean, it's local, so it's not gonna be. Of course, that's gonna get bigger as we get more assets, or we get connecting assets locally and stuff like that, right? So, but for now, I think it's gonna be working fine. Of course, again, we'll get modify this or make it better as we go along. All right, so let's start doing this in SQLite. So first thing is gonna be to import SQLite, import SQLite 3, like that. So this is included with Houdini. So if you go here to Houdini and say, is this Python shell? Yeah. Import SQLite 3. You can see that comes with Houdini. So that is good. We don't have to install anything with Houdini or stuff like that. Version. Let's see, what version do we have here? Doesn't have a version, seems like. Version. No. SQLite connection. Seems like there's no ways to tell the version that we have here. Oh, there it is. Version info. There we go. 2.6. Okay, cool. Or it says 2.6. That's weird that it's 2.6. Alright, so that's the version that we have in Houdini, and that's what is going to be enough for us to do what we need to do here. So we're not going to use any fancy functionality from the database anyway, really. So alright, so we're going to create some parameters here, some global parameters for the database, because we're going to access this in several places. So I'm going to create a DB file. So it's really simple to create this database. You're going to see how. So we're going to use the work path. You can see I have it stored here in the assets, and that's where we're going to put it. So let me just close that. So I'm going to use this, the path that we already have for where the script is, and then we have an assets folder. So I'm going to put it in the assets because it is storing all the assets. So I'm going to use work path. Plus assets, and then I'm gonna call the name of the database that we're gonna use here. I'm gonna call it assets, because I already have one that is called assets, just assets. So you can call it just asset, or that assets cache, or whatever name you want. You can also use different extensions. You can use SQLite, use I think another one, but I like DB because that's just simpler to type. Right, okay, so that's what I want for that. And then I am also gonna use a global connection for now, because I'm gonna use this connection in several places, several functions. So I'm just gonna do connection is gonna be equal to no, I'm just gonna be a connection. And you're gonna see what this is for now, but for now let's just keep that. And I also had a global cached assets variable dictionary that I'm accessing in several places, which again, this could be doing global things or not. It's not always a good idea, but again, we can polish stuff later. So for now, I think it's nice. And let me give you now that we're here, let me do the address for where you go. Sorry, that's not it. Let me see the address where you can get the asset browser, the SQLite database browser. Sorry. I'm gonna put it here. Paste that there. So this is where you can get that browser. You can get that now. That's gonna be what we're gonna be using this to go to search in Google. Maybe we're gonna use this for inspecting the database and testing some stuff on the database. So you go to this website, SQLitebrowser.org. It's free and it's for all systems, Windows, Mac, Linux, Arch Linux. You can see that it's pretty well supported, so you can get it for any system you're working on, even FreeBSD. Look at that. All right, so get that one, and we're gonna be using that for doing the database. All right, so let's start by initializing the database. Okay, so right here, I'm gonna create a function to initialize it. It's gonna be like a external static function here. DB. I'm gonna put DB for stuff that I'm gonna be doing for database. It's gonna be the init for the initialization, and this is gonna take a DB file, which is gonna be the one that we created here, right? Which, I mean, it's gonna be that one, but just just so we put this in a function here. So we're gonna get the global connection. So instead of creating a new con variable here, we're gonna use this one, and to use this global one inside this function, you just put a global prefix here, and then this means instead of creating a new con variable, just use that one that is outside. And this is going to be useful because we're going to assign something to it, and now that is going to be available for everywhere else. So this connection, so this is basically how you connect to the database. Basically, even if it's a local database stored here in your hard drive, you connect to it. And so you just call SQLite tree connect. You can see there's the connect there, and then you pass the database name path here. And this simple option here, if the file doesn't exist, it will create it. If it exists, it connects to it. Okay, so that's what happens there. So here we're gonna return that. I mean, we don't need to return this connection because we're setting it, and then we have this global connection. But I'm just returning that in case that you need it somehow. But I don't think we need it. So let's just do this and see what's gonna happen. You can see here in my browser here, I'm gonna open this in files. It's gonna be here. You can see I have the other one there, SSDB. That's a generic icon, but it's fine. So if we actually, this is not gonna work because let's check. Nothing happened, but it also didn't create because we didn't call this function, right? So let's create that, call that function. I'm gonna call it when we initialize the browser, right? Let me close that. Go to the Exasset browser section here, and I guess after here, before we do anything, let's just initialize that here. Let's call this db init, and let's call that db init db file. So we are initializing it here. So let's now do that. Let's see if we refresh this. Now that should have created a new database here. There it is, tut asset db. So there it is. Now we have the database and we are connected to that database. All right. So we need to set up something on this database. This database it's blank right now, so we need to create a table on it, like I did here. We go to database structure. We create a table called thumbnails. You can think about this like a worksheet, like an Excel spreadsheet, Google Docs sheet, where you have a sheet with different columns, and each column has some type of content. Like here, if you see the browse data, you can see here how this looks like a spreadsheet, right? It says the name, the size, and the image fields here, and then you can store certain types on them. So this is a text, this is an integer, and this is a blob, which is for binary files. In this case, images. I think you can store any kind of binary in a blob. Yeah, you can see this is the different types you can have as well. I think no, I don't think that's the types. Actually, the types are, if we try to edit, modify this table, we can see that the types here: integer, text, blob, real, and numeric. I have no idea what real is. Maybe it's a float, and numeric is going to be like a, I don't really know this, dude. Not really sure. Good thing to look at in the internet and just see what they are. We're not going to use them. We're just going to use the text and the integer and the blob. And you can see here in the name, it says primary. See if we expand this text here, it doesn't say here, but it says primary key. So I'm making the name a primary key. That means that is not going to be repeatable. So every time we call we store data here, if this name already exists, it's not gonna make another entry, right? So we only want the amount of one entry total for each one of these names. So that's a way I'm preventing that in the database itself. So let's create the table first, and that's gonna be in the initialization here. And the table also, we're only gonna create it once, only when the table doesn't exist the first time. So we're gonna execute, and this is execute. If you know anything about databases, inside this execute, you just execute the database commands, and I'm gonna put them inside these triple quotes because we might break this into rows or other rows, and that just makes it so it grabs the whole string completely. So I'm gonna use a command called create table, right? So this is how you create a table, and then you pass a name. In this case, it's gonna be thumbnails, like that. But instead of just doing that, and then you pass, well, this is complete this, and then you put in parentheses here the parameters or the let's say the columns that you're gonna have in this table and the types. So we're gonna have a name, we're gonna have a size, and we're gonna have an image. So those are the three column types, three column names, and then this is gonna be a text, and this is gonna be an integer. That was fine. And this is gonna be a blob. Sometimes you don't need to tell these types, and then you can just store whatever type you want, and then it the database knows what type of object it is and kind of gives it that type. But I'd like to be specific what is gonna happen there. So as I mentioned, the name is gonna be the primary key. So you just do here primary key, just give it the text primary key. Is going to be like this one is never going to be repeated. It's not going to be two of the same name, basically, right? And then the only other thing here is if we do this, this is going to add entries, even if you put it's going to try to create a table every single time, because we're just telling it to just create it. So we're gonna say here create table if not exists. So only if the table doesn't exist is create. So that avoids an error. If we don't do this, we're gonna run it once and it's gonna create a table, but next time there's gonna be an error saying, oh, there's just basically an error, just fails because that already exists. All right, so that's all we're gonna do in the initialization, really. So that is gonna be it. Now if we run it, let's open the database here. Let me open it. Open database. Let's see, where are you? Here, the database. You can see this database is open. There's no tables, indices, views, anything. It's empty right now. So let's run the code, save and run the code here. Now we should have a table. Let's just go back to the browser and refresh this. There's a little button here to refresh it. And it doesn't refresh the structure here. So let's just click it here again to open it. And there you go. We have a thumbnails with the fields that we want. The name as a text, size an integer, and right now it's empty, but you can see the first entry is there ready for us to fill it. So let's start, I guess, doing that. Yeah, let's start doing that right now. Here, I'm gonna create another function that is gonna be to insert tv insert image. So this is going to be inserting the image to the database, and it's going to take a name, a size, and image data. And the image data, if you remember when we get into the website, just getting like a data string or a stream, and that's what we're going to store, and that's actually what becomes an image, or that's basically the blob that what SQL calls, like that's the binary data. So this is we're gonna create an SQL call here we created one for creating the table. Here we're gonna create one for inserting values into the table. Okay. So we're gonna say insert into thumbnails. This is gonna be very careful with how this is spelled, and be aware of uppercase and lowercase letters here, because if you don't, it fails. All right, so it's just the way it is. And also the SQLite commands are generally written in caps. It's not really necessary, but it's like a way to do it for SQL for some reason. So we just do it like that. Name, size, and this is going to be like parameters that we're going to pass here. Image, so we're basically constructing like a command here that we're going to execute. And then here I'm going to press enter to have some stuff move to the bottom here, and then I'm going to want to pass some values here. So just basically it's like a placeholder for values that we can later call in a Python command here. And then here I'm going to give it a space here. Values, and what's going to happen is what I want is when I want to insert one entry, we might have like I want to have the ability to update the size and the blob, but not the name. The name I always want to have like that static. But if that already exists, basically just updates these two fields. In case that we have like different images from the website that are like new thumbnails or whatever, I just want to have the ability for having the thumbnail be updated. So when this entry fails, because it's gonna fail when the name already exists, basically, we're gonna do something. So basically on conflict, that's how you say it on SQL. And if you want to learn more about SQL, this is not the time for that, but I really recommend you take a short tutorial. It's not necessary to just learn everything about it. SQLite, it's pretty simple, really. So what's happening here is if the name already exists, basically, if there's a conflict with the name, which basically means if this is already exists, do update is gonna update and it's gonna set size to It's gonna set size to the excluded dot size, and this excluded is basically the entry that is in quotes excluded, because that's what the entry that failed basically. And the image is gonna get the excluded image. So this says now, let me just put that. If the name already exists, update the size with the entry that you are excluding. Give it the size and give it the image, but the name stays as it is, right? So that's what's going to happen. And then here, after that, we're going to create a command here that we're going to call. It's going to be just a tuple that we're going to call with the name, the size, and the image data, which is basically, this is basically what's going to be filled here. So this is like, what values are we going to put there? And this is the values that we're going to put there. Okay. And then we just now execute that. Execute the SQL command here with these values data, right? So that's what's going to happen there. And then we do commit to actually write to the database and write it to the database. It's not closing the database, but it writes it to the database. Basically, put it in a state that it's usable. Okay, so it writes these changes to the database with a commit. Okay, so that is good. So now we can actually test this with something. So let's try to go test it. Here we can do using something for testing. There was an image that we were using. This one for testing. We can try to use that and test it there. Let's see. But this is not a blob, right? Because that is just an actual image. What do we do? We could also test it with, if we open an image, we can just do that really quickly and test it if we want to. Do I want to do that? So let's go here. So this image binary data, that's exactly what we want to write to the database. So if we print this, let's just print this just so you can see what that looks like. It's just a bunch of binary data. So if we do that, you can see this is the image data. That's the image data. This is basically binary code converted into text. So that is what we want to store in the database. So let's just call it from here and store it. Let's try it and see what happens. So we want to use this db insert image here. So let's call db insert image, and the name, we don't have the name here, right? We could use the parent to get the name, but let's just give it a generic name, which is gonna be repeating. So let's call this Houdini, and let's give it this size of 256, and let's pass that image binary. So if this works, we're only gonna have one entry called Houdini with the last one of these images, which is gonna be overwritten every single time, but let's try that. Okay, this worked, and let's go and see in the database, refresh that, just clicking this button. Okay, so now we have an entry here, and it's called Houdini, and it has 256 there. It's called Houdini 256, and we have a blob, and you can see that is the image there. And if we go here, it should be the one of the last ones that loaded, which seems like this one's the last one that loaded. Remember, this is not loading in order. You just call the thread and then it loads in whatever order. But this is working, so we have an image there, which is great. It's not the way we're going to store these images there. But that is how we're going to be writing to the database. Okay. Also, if you want to delete this entry, you can say, click on the number, delete record, and then write the changes. If not, that thing's going to be there. So we just wrote it, and this is empty again. The table, it's still there, but the data is gone. And that's good because we don't want to write the data this way. So let's just not do that, which is okay for now. All right. So now we're going to do a few things in the way we are doing this section. So for example, let me this is all stuff that we don't really need anymore. All this we don't really need. So let's just comment that out. And we want to do it over here. So you can see this is where we're downloading from the website, and we want to condition this so it only happens if we have if the data doesn't exist already on the database. Okay. So we're gonna do a few things here to do that. And the first thing I'm going to do is let's go to this section where we have all the, let me see, have all these variables that we created. I'm going to create one for self.cached assets. So what I'm going to do, this is something that I did, and it was a little bit faster to do that than just checking always on the database. So we're gonna call the database and say, hey, does this thing already? It's already in the database, and the database says yes. We're skipping it. Instead of downloading from the website, we're just gonna get the image from that entry. But that takes time. Querying the database every single time takes time. So what I'm doing is just getting the database names all at once when we start the asset, and then I just check on a list basically, so which is very, very, very fast. And then I'm gonna also use this cache assets dictionary to cache the assets on the database. Right now I'm getting all the assets from the database into this dictionary, and then just getting the blob from this dictionary instead of from the database. But we will make this better later. Instead of getting everything, we're just gonna get the part that we are working on. For example, the skies, the indoor, and instead of everything. For now, this is gonna be the way we're gonna do it because it's it works. It's not that, doesn't take much time really. So we're gonna do it this way for now. As I mentioned, we're gonna worry about optimizing later. So let's create a db get assets in db function. So this is gonna get the assets from the database. But right now we don't have any assets on the database, right? But we're gonna use this to check, and if it doesn't exist, this is gonna be basically our condition. So we're gonna grab the global connection, and then we let me just copy this, and I'm gonna explain it because I just type everything, it's gonna take forever. Let's see. See if this works. Okay. So we're creating again another query for the database here, and it's saying it's gonna be called existing assets. Okay. And it's gonna be saying select from timeless where size equals something. Okay. So in this case, I'm saying select the name give me back the name of the asset from the thumbnails database, where when the size matches a size, which is basically getting the current thumbnail size here, passing it to that, and the fetch all means give me all the entries that match this condition, which in this case is basically all. Like I mentioned, we can just make this better if we make this size and also match the size, but also the current section that we're in or category. But for now, we're just gonna grab them all, and then this is just makes this this puts the because this returns a tuple. I changed that, but let's try this. Cache asset, existing asset. So are we just setting the cache asset goal variable on the class, the property to the asset that we grab here? We can actually print the assets here. We're gonna print the names in this case. Let me get this check this, because I made a change later that just returning me. It was returning me a dictionary. Oh, but I'm not doing it here. Okay, so let's just do that. So this is just basically converting, getting the list, because this returns a tuple. Basically returns something like this, like this is basically the name, and then return something like that. So I don't want this tuple. I always want this first entry. So that's why we're saying for all the existing assets, just give me the first entry, and then just rebuilding this list into just having that. So let's just try that. And right now it's not going to do anything really, because there's no assets in the database. So let's make sure there are some assets the way we did it here. It's only going to be one, but we can get the name with the parent from the parent, but let's just get one for now and put it there. So we're not calling this function anywhere. So let's get the assets from database. Let's see, get assets from database. I'm gonna be getting those here. Oh, actually, I am doing that. Sorry, why is it not working? Wait, I'm on the wrong file. Sorry, I opened the wrong file here. So I'm gonna call them. I'm gonna call them right here after the table is, or the thumbnail is set. So that db get assets from db there, and then we print this, and we should get one, and there it is. Now we have one. That is one asset that exists on the table of the database, which is great. We have one. Great. So it's working. So now I'm gonna do something here with that information that we have now in the where we want to condition if it exists or not. So we're basically building the condition little by little here. So instead of always doing this, we're going to have a condition run here. Okay, so let's do, man, we have so much to do. First I'm gonna move this line over here. I want to do that, adding the widget right away, and then we set the image after, which is how I want that to work. So if the key that we have here is in the self that cached assets, that's the one that we're populating with the assets that we got from the database. If that exists, we're gonna do something here. For now, let's just pass else. So if it doesn't, we're gonna do this part here, which is the what we're doing at the moment, right? We're getting it from the website, and the connection, it's fine. That is always gonna work. So we have this setup now. So if the name exists, get it from the website, from the database, and that's what we're gonna do right now. So now what we're gonna do here is on the asset. Remember on the asset we created a set image function before, right? We're gonna create another one for getting the icon from the database, basically. So this is gonna be called set icon from data, because it's not the same way that we do it. So we need to create another one, and I'm just gonna copy this so it's very similar to what we already did before. You're gonna be able to understand this quite quickly. So I'm saying from the cache assets database, which is this thing here, this dictionary that we make global, right? We're getting the sorry, I forgot to. There's a few things we need to do. There's also tabs happening. So we're basically getting from that dictionary. We're getting it by name. We're gonna be getting it by name, right? We're getting the blob from that name is gonna be returned here, and then we just create a queue image with that data here with that blob, and then we create a pix map with that image, and then we set the icon from that, and then we're basically calling this image here, this function, with this image to set the icon here, right? So that's what's happening here. This label doesn't exist right now, so we need to create it here. There's a few things we need to include here. We're using that cache asset, so let's call that global a variable here. The thumbnail we're gonna do, let's make sure we have the thumbnail size as thumb size as a property here, just to make sure we have that available. Also the label, which is the raw label as it comes, because we also using this here to replace we want the label with the underscore. So this is basically what we're gonna get from other places, and we're gonna set that. That's it. That's all we need here for now. So the label is gonna be this one, and the label of the object, and we need to actually construct this dictionary, which we can be constructing it from getting the assets from the database. We're not done yet. So again, we are here, cache assets. So if this guy exists, we're gonna do that right now. We're gonna call asset dot set icon from data. We don't need to pass anything to that. So this is gonna run, but this is not yet complete. So let's complete that part, which is the other function that we need to get here. Where do we put that function? Here. We're getting the names here, but now we're gonna get the actual. We're gonna need another function to get the actual, populate the actual dictionary with the blobs. So let's create another function. It's gonna call get all images in DB. Again, this can very easily be converted to just getting the current section. For now, I'm just doing it like this. We'll optimize it later, as I mentioned. Main thing here is just getting it to work at the moment, and after we have it working, we can just do all the optimization that we want. All right, so let me grab this code for make this a little bit faster, because man, it takes a while to do this stuff. So just gonna explain what's happening here. All right, so I am setting this property of the connection to get this returns me a dictionary of the keys here, because now I'm going to call another query to the database, but now here you can see I'm returning the name and the image from the terminals here, where the size is equal to the current size, right? Same as here, but now we're getting the name and the image, which is going to be the image blob. And then we have a dictionary here, basically in the cache images. So I'm saying, looping through that dictionary and saying, give me populating this cache assets dictionary here with the name here, which is going to be the actual name of the asset, and the row image, which is going to be the actual blob, right? So it's going to get a dictionary that is like something like this. Is going to look like maybe Studio 1, and then the data is going to be the image, the blob image, like something like that. So whenever we call Studio 1, it's going to return the blob to us, and that's what we're going to be able to assign to one of these guys. So with this done, I think we should be able to assign run this logic and have them cached, because we're going over here and should be able to cache them. Let's see. No, wait. Yeah. So, all right. So we have this part done. Let's go again to that section. I mean, this is a little bit, it's a lot of stuff happening. So if the key exists in the cache assets, which right now it doesn't because we have no cache asset, we just have that data without one entry there. It's still gonna do this. So what we want is here in this part, when it's done assigning the image and everything, we want actually to insert to the database the entry, right? So once we loaded it once, let's add it to the database here, and it's gonna be really simple here at the end here. We're going to say db insert. We already created that function, right? Self that parent dot label. This is gonna give us the label of the current object. Getting the parent, the label gives us the name that we want. The size, it's on the parent. Self that parent dot thumb size dot height, and the image binary, we have it here from here, so we're passing that. So this is the name of the asset, the size, and the binary. And the parent of this, it's basically this asset here, this type of asset, and that's why we make those things available here, so we can access them over here, right? So these properties now can be accessed here. And actually, this is not a function, sorry. It's just a property, and this time size is fine. It's just a property with a this is a queue size, so that's why we get in the height. It's not a one number. It's a queue size like we did before. Here it's a queue size, so it has a width and height. Right, and with that, now we should be able to cache the assets to the database. So let's try it again. Let's refresh. Okay, so this loaded from the website now, right? But if we go to the database and refresh, you can see now we cache all those assets to the database. So we did load it from the website, but we have them all here now. This is pretty cool. Look at that. Awesome, right? So now if we run this again, you can see we have an issue, but we have all these assets now on the database, right? So that is actually pretty cool. And let's see why this is failing. Christmas Photo Studio 1 fail on line 160. Let's see what I did wrong here. What is going on here? That should work. That actually should work. Because Christmas Photo Studio 1 is there actually. In the cache asset, seems like it's not. Let me see what I did wrong there. Should be working fine. Self label comes from this label, which is cool. Has to be something with this cache asset, which we are populating it here. Something is going on here wrong. So let me just to test this, I'm gonna change this to size, because if I try to print the website, I mean the blobs, it takes a lot of stuff. So let's just change this to size for now, and let's just print what we're getting here. It's gonna fail, but we're gonna get some stuff here printing. Let's see, cached, just so we know that we're printing that. Keys. I'm not calling this function, right? Guys need to tell me this. I'm never calling this function here, so I need to call it here. Self.db get images from the database, and let's just test this. And actually, let's save, refresh. Save. Oh, it is printing. Yeah, has no keys. Okay, something's happening here, so that's great. 255 here. Let's just don't do that. Change this back to image, and this back to image. And let's try this again. All right, cool. This now is working. So you notice that these guys didn't load. Now these guys are actually loading from disk, and we can test that by going to the section here where we're loading from disk and say, let's put a print statement and say loaded image from database, actually, and we can say self.label to see which one it was. Let's not print this list anymore. Where are we printing that one? Here, existing assets. Let's not print that anymore. Let's run this again. And you can see now this is loaded from database, this one, because it already exists. So you can see this loads pretty quickly. If we now click on indoor, for example, you can see that is loading from the website. You can see, notice that is loaded. But if we go back to studio, you can see that loads pretty quickly. And now we go back to indoor. Now that loaded from the database now. So pretty cool, right? If we go back to the database here, see there's more entries now, and they shouldn't be repeated. So you can see we only have one garage. Let's say if we want to filter for gym, you can see there's only one gym entrance. So that is working, and we have the blobs here, and everything's working fine, which is really cool. All right, so let's see, what else do we have to do today? Load it. Just gonna leave that in case we want to use it, but now this is working. So this condition here saying if it exists on the database, load it from the database. If not, go here. So it's working great, and this should be working. Everything should be working. You can see if I click, it says select the light. which we haven't selected a lot there. So let's see what else do we need to do, because I think we're done for now, actually. And there was, yep, we're done. Let me just give you a summary of what happened. And yes. All right, so let's just give you review of what's happening here, right? So let's start with from the from this section here. So before we just go in directly and download it from the website, but now we have a condition. So we're getting the assets from which assets exist on the database. We're just calling the database and saying, return me all the names. Actually, you can do that here on the database as well. This and this guy, you can test stuff. Like we have all the entries here. Right now is 141. You go to do execute SQL. You can see I have a query here, but you can say, select all the names. And then if you execute that, it's going to give you, say like, oh, I don't know which column from what tables. Basically, it needs a table. Select from thumbnails. So it's going to give me, if I select that, it's going to give me all the names from the thumbnails, which is what one of the things we're doing, right? Just getting all the names here. If you say, give me all the names and the image, like we're also doing, you can do that. Like it gives you the names and the image, right? And if you say where size equals 256, it's gonna give you only the ones that are 256. In this case, we only are saving 256, but if we change the size, you can see now no one exists with size 128, so it gives you nothing. But yeah, this is very helpful if you want to test what's happening, or if you want to understand more the commands that we added here. You can paste those there and see what they give you. It's a really nice way to also test like the commands. If you're not sure if the command is working, you can test it here and say if this command is working or not, because sometimes it doesn't work because maybe you had a typo there, and you can see there is a typo here and fix it quickly. So we're getting all the assets from the website. I mean, from the database. If it exists, we assign it from there. If not, we get it from the website as always. So if we get it from the website, once we assign it to the image, we cache it to the database. So next time we just get it from there. And if we have it here, we go to this set icon data, and we get the image blob from the cache assets that we already grabbed from the database. We pre-cache those basically into a dictionary, which, I mean, it's gonna be a little bit of memory that's gonna be on RAM, but for now it's fine. Then we just construct a Q image from that, a pixmap from that image, and an icon for that, and we set that on the little guy here, and we're good. We go to the next one, and that's it basically. I mean, there's some calls to databases. There's some caching of assets into lists and dictionaries. But once you have that, it's all good. Basically, if you wanted to cache them all, you can just go to the all category and cache all the images, and all the images will be on the database, and it's not gonna be loading from disk anymore. So you can see, I mean, from website, you can see now it's loading from the website. But this is already caching them to the database. If we go back to Studio, really quickly loads those. If we go back to Skies, you can see that is loading from the website. That's weird. That is weird. Maybe it's because I missed something here. I'm not sure. There's no things that I've changed there. Oh no, it is caching them here. Let's try that again. Maybe we need to refresh this because we changed something over here. Because we removed that. far as I know. For the skies, there we go. Yeah, skies, you can see that just popped completely there. So I just needed to refresh that indoor. See, it just takes a second and then just pops it. Studio pops because that is all loaded from the database really quickly. Sunrise, if I go to Sunrise or Urban, those are gonna download from the website. See that those are downloaded the first time. But once that is downloaded, it's already on the database and it's ready for consumption. All right. Hopefully this was useful to you, and loading stuff from a database is really cool. You can do a lot of stuff there. Of course, this is big thumbnails. 256 it's a big kind of size. That might be the biggest size that we have. Maybe we kind of have 512, but even here in my 4K monitor, 256 seems like a big one. Not sure if I want to have this in 512, but we might. And then from there down, it's going to be faster to load all these assets, and going to just be quicker to populate all this stuff, right? Okay, cool. Hope you learned something today. Next week, we might going to be now create the sidebar that I've been telling you about, setting the properties and stuff like that. And now that we have this all in the database, we might include more of those properties in the database as well. I don't know, maybe even do some other fun things. All right. Okay. I will see you in the next lesson. Hope you enjoyed this one, and let's keep learning together.